welcome to the Intuitively Wild podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Levine. Living intuitively wild is about coming back home to ourselves. Here, we talk about how to live connected to ourselves, others, and nature, and make a commitment to radical authenticity, vulnerability, and acceptance. On this podcast, we delve into a wide range of topics that span the human experience. We peel back the layers and talk about the things that are often not talked about. This is a space for us all to walk and wander this path of life together. Let's dig into our roots and go deep.
There's such good lighting in here.
I know, it's nice and bright in here, which I love.
Yeah.
It's really nice. The whole bottom floor kind of gets nice lighting.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
So happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So the first question that I start off all my conversations with is, what is something you wish people knew about you that not many do?
Let's see. I have a lot of talents. They all are focused on helping other people and trying to build community. I teach trauma-informed yoga. Well, I used to. And that was something I started because I went into it to help children through yoga and set them up early on. So I would say that's something most people don't know, or they don't know the origin of why I did it. It was more so for kids having that skill set before they became adults.
Wow, that's so interesting. I mean, not that I know you super well, but I didn't know that about you. I'm a yoga therapist, so in that we learned trauma-informed. Yeah. So that's so interesting, but you don't teach anymore?
I haven't taught probably in almost a year. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I started turning my focus into personal training. Mm-hmm. And the goal with that is to offer yoga and personal training. Mm-hmm. So have more than one entity to provide to people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of business, let's talk about your business. Okay. And what Unhinged is and why you decided to start it.
Unhinged is, the business itself is traditional speed dating, and we've recently started to expand into other aspects of it, like the mixer aspect, or board games and cycling and things like that. But the reason why we started it was because it's really, really hard to use the apps. It's really hard to engage with somebody, feel like you can build an authentic connection with them. And then also, some people will text before you meet them. And then when you do meet them, you're like, oh, wait, there's nothing there, and I kind of just wasted this time. I highly suggest just keeping the texting to a minimum anyway if you haven't met somebody. And then it's also just the pen pal aspect of it too. You're constantly just going back and forth. And you're like, is this ever going to turn into anything? Is this ever going to happen? And then also the aspect of you meet somebody and they are not what you thought they were, or maybe you're not what they thought you were. We kind of form this person in our head before you've even met them, which isn't fair to you or them. I think it was more so I saw the trouble, and Sofia, my partner too, saw the trouble with the apps, especially being two single women. And we were like, okay, what can we do differently, and how can we meet people outside of this? And it's something I've mentioned before. I feel since we've started it, I've also heard other people say, oh my God, I was looking for something like this, or oh, I saw this somewhere one time or something. So definitely a want and a need and a desire from some people that they previously knew they had, or they didn't know that they had it. But yeah, that's kind of why we started, and we started it in October. And it's just going and going and going now. And it's funny because it's been the dead of winter, and people are still coming out and speed dating. Yeah. So I can only imagine how much larger it's going to get. So.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I think because I'm also single, have used the apps, highly dislike them.
Yeah,
and
totally.
For me, two of the biggest things are the authenticity piece and the intentionality piece. And you touched on both of these. It's so hard to know who someone authentically is on the app.
Yeah.
especially if you are just texting them.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I can know right away how I feel about someone energetically when I meet them in person.
Mm-hmm.
So I can be texting with someone and feel hopeful and feel excited, and then within like 5 seconds of meeting them in person, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I just wasted my time. And then also the intentionality. It's so easy for everyone really, but I think guys especially, to just be randomly scrolling on the apps and randomly texting people, and they're not being intentional with their time on the apps.
No, and I think like some of the apps try to be more intentional, whether it's like a certain gender reaching out or you only can have so many likes and things like that. I definitely think they're trying to navigate the intentionality of it, but it's just so hard. It's like, I've heard people say it's a numbers game. It can become very overwhelming. Some people go on it and they can get a lot of matches. And then you have all these people when you talk to you. And then it can become very overwhelming because then you're like, I don't know. And I don't want to, like, you're like, do I date multiple people or just one person? It's just a lot of time you're investing in these people that you don't even know.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. And the energy piece is so important. Like, you have to feel something there, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like sparks at first, but to just feel like, okay, I feel comfortable with this person, I feel like I can talk to them. That's just a good start, instead of like being attracted to somebody just based off how they look as well.
I'm curious, since you said you were single, how has this shifted your focus from your dating life? Like, how are you incorporating building this business and also tending to,
dating
something
aspect
for you?
Yeah, so I actually re-downloaded Hinge like a month ago, but my sole purpose on it was to gather more clients. My mind is like, okay, where are the single people? How do I get them? And then I got banned off Hinge from it. But people were like, are you on here to date or are you here to promote your business? And I was like, I don't know. I'm here to promote it. I put in my bio, like the first thing, it just says like, I host speed dating events. And then I had the date for the largest event coming up and the Instagram handle.
That's so funny.
Yeah. And I mean, it's free marketing, but it's the client I want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why not?
So, but as far as like, I went on a couple dates from it, but I was like, oh, this is exactly why I stopped using the apps. It felt weird doing it. But I mean, I get to see all of these people make these connections and stuff. And it almost is taking me back a little bit where I'm like, okay, I need to be more intentional with my time and my feelings and who I open myself up to. And also, if I'm promoting something, I want to be able to also know how I'm showing up and how I want other people to show up authentically. So I wouldn't say dating hasn't, like, it's not a priority to me right now. It's more so getting other people to date. And then if the opportunity arises, then that would be great. But also at the same time, it's a nice turn where it's okay, I'm not so focused on me and what I'm looking for. Now I get to help other people in that aspect. So yeah,
absolutely. And I love how you mentioned how working on this business is bringing you back to how you want to show up and the energy you want to put out there, because there are other speed dating businesses out there, just like there are other multiples of every business. One reason I felt drawn to your events versus I've never, ever thought about going to a speed dating event before that is because I liked that it was owned and hosted by two women, and your energy seemed fun and comforting and welcoming. And so much of it is what you bring to the space and like the environment that you are creating. Even though the event's not about you, it is your event, that speaks so much.
Yeah, I think it helps that we also understand the struggle of it. And then Sofia and I have been friends for over 10 years, so we have a really good relationship with each other, and we understand the struggles together. I was in a relationship for 10 years, and Sophie helped me get out of that and navigate being single. And then she actually, about a year later, split up with her partner of like 8 or 9 years.
Wow.
So we both came out of really long relationships, and we're trying to navigate it together. And I think that there's something different when it comes to even like Sophia and I. We have a good bond. We know each other's weaknesses and strengths, and we know how to balance each other out, where she's like more of the MC and works the crowd. I'm more like the logistical, operational, behind the scenes person. So it's a good balance. It's a really good balance, and I think that's part of what helps the success of it so much, is that we know each other very well, and we know the struggle of dating itself and the holes that we want filled in regard to dating. So
Yeah, I felt that. And I guess I went to one of your very first events, because I went to one in November, and I didn't know you guys at all, but I felt like it was a good balance.
Yeah.
And there was that comfortability between you guys that echoed out into the rest of the event, which was really nice.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet?
Sophia and I met actually working together back in Woodstock like 10 or 11 years ago, and then we just became friends since. And then, yeah, we've been friends for a really long time, and it's been great. We're like 7 or 8 years apart too. She's younger, and I met her, I feel like, when she was like a baby in a way. But yeah, it's just been a good relationship. It's funny because we joke with each other, and we're like, I want to find a partner like you that shows up the way you do, and where I can be myself authentically and not feel like I'm going to be judged, and can hold space for me, and knows when to come together and knows when to give me space. Yeah, I think a lot of our friendships can kind of mimic what we want in a relationship too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And was there a moment with you guys where you were like, let's do this?
Yes, we had discussed it on and off, and we have a friend that owns a spot in Woodstock, and I just went up to her and I was like, hey, I have this idea. Can I just try this out? And she was like, yeah, of course, go ahead. So she allowed us to use her space, and then we sold out of the event, and it was like 60 people. And then we were like, oh, wow, this really does bring people in. And I mean, we had people coming from, this was in Woodstock, but we had people coming from Albany and Newburgh and Beacon and stuff. So we knew that people wanted to come to it. And the first event was more so a trial with anything, a pilot, like, let's see if people really want this or not. And they did. And then it kind of just took off. And everybody that we've hosted events with have contacted us. We haven't had to do any outreach in regard to setting up spaces. And every one of them have sold out, with the exception of one. But that one we pivoted and turned it into like a mixer for the turnout. But other than that, they've always done really well. We had a really big one Valentine's Eve, and there were over 100 people there, and we did a game show, and then we did speed dating, and then we also did a mixer as well. And it's really nice because you have, with each event, sometimes there is feedback too about what people would like to see more of, and it's nice to get that back. And it's also nice to get people complimenting what we're doing and whatnot, but it's also nice to have people be like, okay, I would like to see this maybe, or that maybe. And, you know, if you hear it a few times, you're like, okay, yes, that is something that we need to work on. So I appreciate the feedback. I appreciate people poking holes, because it only helps us get better.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I think it's fun that you're doing different things, because it also keeps people coming back.
Yeah.
Versus just doing the speed dating, which I honestly can find overwhelming.
Yes.
It's just a lot of different people, a lot of different energy all at once.
Yeah, and I like to find comfort in it and try to provide comfort in it, and knowing that everybody there is nervous, and this is probably a lot of people's first times as well. So you're all in the same boat. And you get to walk away after this and you have no commitment to anybody, and you don't have to follow up with a text message and say, oh, I'm sorry, this just didn't work out for me. You get to make the decision as to whether or not you want to see somebody again. And you don't have to say it to their face, and you don't have to handle that communication. But I mean, if you go out with them, you're going to have to, like the next time, if you match, you're going to have to, of course, take care of that. But it's nice that there's this anonymity to it, in the sense that there's not as much pressure to show up. But I can understand it can be a little, it can, not even a little, it can be a lot. It can be really nerve-wracking, and you're meeting a lot of people at one time. And the reason why our latest event, where we had over 100 people, we broke it up with a mixer and a game show as well, is because realistically, you dating like 50 people at one time, that just doesn't sound appealing to me. But also, you're not able to build authentic relationships or connections with people. Once you get through so many people, the conversation is just going to continue to die down. So it also gives you the opportunity to go up to somebody that maybe you didn't get a chance to speak to and make conversation with them. It's like putting ourselves out there. I remember I forget the exact situation, but I started to realize if people go up to you and they compliment you, like at the grocery store, or you're walking and somebody's like, I really like your shirt or something. Sometimes as a society, we're like, oh my God, why is that person talking to me? Oh my God. And we shouldn't be that way, though. It's weird that we can't approach people and have conversations with them. I feel like that's what we're supposed to do. And the number one source of your happiness are your relationships. Kind of just trying to get through that barrier. We're so stuck behind our phones, as we all know, and we just need to reel it back and go back to the old school way, the ways we didn't even try, but go back and try to form connections with people in person.
Yeah, because I've heard so many people say, oh, and I feel this way for sure, I wish I could just meet someone out in the wild. And I think I've heard people say, I wish someone would just approach me on the street or in the supermarket or whatever, but we say that, but we don't actually put out that energy.
Yeah.
And we don't actually give that opportunity, and we have made it weird for that to happen.
Yeah.
And I think having more situations like these kinds of speed dating events where you're normalizing that, in those situations, it's not weird for someone to just come up and give you a compliment or start talking. It's kind of like we're practicing so that if we want to do that in a different environment, or when we're just out with friends at a bar or not at a speed dating event, we've had that practice, or it feels more normal.
Yeah, I think it's good to even just try it once, just to see what it's like to see other people put themselves out there. You put yourself out there. For us, there are different icebreakers that we incorporate now. We have different games, and of course the game show and the mixer. And then we have some coming up where we have a board game, a sober board game event.
I love that.
Yeah, and
that's
then
one I would like.
And then now we're going to do a 50+ event, our first one, because we had a lot of people asking for that one too.
Yeah, and I love how you are being intentional about creating new events and new opportunities, and I feel like that also, like you were saying, allows people to go deeper versus just having these shorter conversations in the speed dating environment, because then it can start to feel like you're just swiping on the app but just in person. And so I think it's so important to bring that depth into it, to bring that intentionality, the presence back into it.
Yeah, I definitely think there has to be something beyond just sitting there and talking to one person and then sitting there and talking to another and another. Yeah, there's going to be board games. We've incorporated comedy before. We have a show coming up that will have comedy, and then arcade games, axe throwing.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
I love that. And I also love that because it takes the focus off of it purely just being about dating and like so hyper fixated on finding your person. It's like, no, this can be fun. This is just about coming out, meeting people, experimenting, seeing what happens, and just having a good time.
Yeah, I think it helps loosen it up because it's new to everybody, and when you're walking into something new, it's hard to, be relaxed and really know what's going on. So there are different tools and activities used more and more now to get people to open up. And those are things you would normally do on a first or second date or third date or whatever. You would go, maybe you guys would go play board games, or maybe you guys would go axe throwing, or maybe you would go to a comedy show. Now you have it there and you have multiple people. So it just is, it's an inviting space, I would say.
Yeah, making people feel comfortable and normal.
Yeah. But some people do like just sitting at the table and like going boom, 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 boom.
Absolutely.
And then other people need more icebreakers and things like that. And then we also typically try to have food now too, so people are able to eat during the check-in process. Our check-in process is usually an hour long, so then it gives people the time to go home, or people come from like an hour and a half away sometimes.
Wow.
Just gives them the opportunity to show up when they can. Sometimes people come really early, like 30 minutes early, which is totally fine. I was wondering why people do that, and I think it's to like assess the people. Like watch everybody come in and see who's coming in. I would probably do that just so I could know everything that's happening and who's coming in, instead of coming in at the end and there's a bunch of people around. Probably get your first pick.
That's
maybe.
interesting. I probably wouldn't like to get there early because then I would just be anxious and overthinking it.
Yeah.
But I do like to observe people.
Yeah.
I am the type of person who likes to kind of be in the background for a moment, just taking it all in.
Yeah.
It's a comfortability thing.
Yeah. Reading the room and seeing like what the energy is and how it lines up with you. I could definitely understand that too.
And I feel like that's how I learn about people. I just observe their energy, and I'm a watcher. I'm a people watcher. Yeah. It's probably so interesting for you to observe the other people, to observe the dynamics and watch people.
I can definitely feel and see who's nervous, who's relaxed, casual. And usually if you're like more nervous, sometimes we have, because there's little breaks throughout, because say it's not even, say like we have 20 girls and 21 guys. And then so every so often, a guy is going to be sitting by himself for a few minutes so he can take a break. What one of us would typically do is go up to them and talk to them and ask them how they're doing and what they're liking about it and what they think, and get a feel for the energy of them, because that's valuable feedback to us, but also provide comfort for them, knowing, hey, we're here with you, you're not alone, type of thing. It's a lot of different elements at play, and you still have to work the room and make sure people are feeling good and not feeling alone. And, good to know though that like, if I were in that situation, I would think, okay, we're all doing this together. And I'm sure everybody's like, okay, what's my opener? Like, what am I going to say to each person? If I was doing it, I would be like, okay, let's rock, paper, scissors first. Okay.
I would love if someone said that.
Yeah. I want to like do something playful, different, break it up. I would want to do something not traditional, like asking, oh, how old are you? What do you do for work? When we're doing speed dating, it's okay to want to know what somebody does. But are we here to measure people based on their success, or are we here to meet somebody with an authentic connection? That's one thing that I wish more people would take the time to get to know people and figure out their passions. And, oh my God, is this the first time you're doing this? I cannot believe we're here. I should have just approached that man in the grocery store yesterday. And you can just play with it. We typically, with speed dating itself, we match everybody up with everybody, or you'll date everybody. You'll end up meeting A, B, and C, all the way to Z and whatnot. We're launching an app in April, and then that will be able to give us more customization as to who you date, you speed date. Cool. So you'll be able to put in the age range you want to see, if you want to date somebody that has children or not, if you don't mind children, based on your sexual orientation, what you prefer. You can still date everybody in the room, but we're going to prioritize you meeting those people first, the ones that you're interested in. It's a big leap for us. I like people dating everybody, but also at the same time, if you have like a 20-year-old and a 50-year-old, it's not necessarily fair if that's not what you're looking for. And the larger the events get, the more complicated it gets in regard to matching people up or seating them together. That'll help people get to specify what they want a little bit more. It can get more granular, and you can put height and stuff like that in it. Not going to do that. It's going to be as minimal details as possible, but I think age is definitely something that people really want and need, and it's kind of a deal breaker thing for them. And that'll also alleviate some of the larger events where people are like, I really just want to only date 30 or 40-year-olds, or can you just have an event for 25 to 35? And we don't do that. It's too granular. you might be surprised by who you meet. And somebody who wants to date 25 to 35, that 30-year-old may only want to date 40 and up or something. It just gets a little too complicated. But like I said, we're doing a 50-plus event. And then going forward, our events will be able to cater to what people want to date age-wise and sexual orientation and if they have children or not and all of those types of things. So,
well, first of all, congrats on the app. That's huge.
Yeah, thank you.
And I really appreciate how you are putting in certain specificities that are deal breakers, but saying no to ones that are limiting.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like the height thing, okay, someone could put in, I will only date someone over, 6 feet, but the love of your life is 5'8". You know? Part of why speed dating has such benefits compared to the dating apps is because it gives you the ability to be more open-minded and to meet someone for who they are versus just what their profile shows. But there are still certain deal breakers. Like, I don't want to date someone over 40.
Yeah.
So it allows you to keep those values and what feels comfortable and authentic for you.
Yeah.
But then also to stretch yourself out of your comfort zone and to challenge the limitations you might have put on yourself.
Exactly. A guy could be 2 years older than you really want, or 2 years younger, or like you're saying, he's a couple inches taller or a couple inches shorter, or whatever it may be. On our match sheets, the very first thing you see on them at the top, it says attraction is beyond what you see. Because at the end of the day, if you're really going to be with somebody and be with them long term, you have to think beyond the physical aspect of them. It is important for somebody to take care of themselves, but oh god, he has brown hair and I really wanted a blonde-haired guy. Oh my god, but this man is probably going to be so attentive and intuitive and communicative and self-aware, but you want the other guy. That also plays into the part of, okay, how much of it is a you thing versus a them thing? We can't create this whole list of things, of people that we want, and expect that we're going to find all of those things. And it's not fair. It's not fair to be like, you're too tall or you're too short. It's not fair to the person. I heard something once where it's like, if somebody can't control something about them, you should not have an opinion to them about it. It doesn't matter.
This is huge for me because I know myself so well and I have a list of what I want, and there's like one thing on it that is appearance based and everything else is
value based.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And for me, yes, you want to be attracted to your partner.
Yeah.
But I think that comes down to energy more than anything else. Like, I could close my eyes and know if I feel attracted to someone or if I feel that sexual chemistry, because it's in the energy more so than what they look like. And I feel like what they look like, it's our brain's telling us that that's what we should like. That's what we should want.
I think it's important to have both, but even the game show aspect, it's a blindfolding game show. And so it's just based off your answers and
that's so
your
fun.
Response. And say it's a guy blindfolded and then 2 girls, and then we're like emceeing between the 3 of them, having a conversation, getting them to talk, and then the guy gets to choose which one he wants to be matched with, and then those 2 go and have a conversation. And then the one girl who's still there, blindfolded, then moves into the hot seat. And then she has 2 guys that are blindfolded, and none of them know who's going up, who's blindfolded. They haven't met each other. They're actually taken away at the very beginning, and they're also told, you can't speak to this, you can't tell anybody what you're doing, you're going to be blindfolded. And we keep them together, all the women together and all the men together, so they're not just sitting there like blindfolded, like what's going on. It's a way to remove the physical aspect of it versus actually getting to know somebody.
That's cool. How many times have you done that?
We've actually only done that one time.
How did it go?
It was great. It was good. It's definitely helps loosen the crowd
Mm-hmm.
And then the people that are involved in the game show aspect of it are kind of the superstars, I guess. People are, oh my God, your response was so funny. Or, oh my God, when this happened and you blah, 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 blah. It creates a conversation piece for them, for the game show participants, but then also the audience. So it opens up the room more than if you were just to start with something like speed dating initially off the bat.
How did you come up with all these different ideas?
It's one of those things where if you have an idea, this is since we have a following now on Instagram too, I engage a lot with our followers. So I ask a lot of questions. I have something called Question of the Day, and every day I ask a different question, and then they answer, they choose 1 out of 4, or they do a fill in the blank or something. And they're always light questions, sometimes funny. But I've done a lot of engagement posts or stories to see what people want to see. Would you be interested in this, or that? And then people click whatever they want. I also do that with locations too. So then I'm like, okay, I need to prioritize this location over that location, or I don't have anything there. Granted, I haven't reached out to anybody, but I'm aware of where people are and kind of more so what the demographics are there. Like there's New Paltz. We haven't done any in New Paltz, but we've had people reach out and be like, New Paltz, New Paltz, New Paltz. And I didn't really expect that New Paltz would want that. But I'm like, okay, well, they're asking for it. There's a space there that wants it. So we're going to do it there. But there's a lot of feedback aspect is what I'm saying. It's more so me trying to think of things like, oh, I wonder if people would want this, or that, and then engaging with them to understand what it is that they want. It's one of those things, too, where if you have an idea in your mind, see if people want it, or float it by, bounce the idea back and forth, and then just go for it and see. It doesn't hurt at all to try, so.
It's cool how it seems to have just unfolded so easily.
I think it was because, one, we're single women, so we understand the pain points with dating, and we did a lot of dating too. So I think it's more so the passion behind it. We know the struggle, so it's easy to understand what other people want. And then also, I've tried other things. I've done yoga, and that's about bringing people together. I've hosted boot camp classes, and that's about bringing people together as well. So for me, there's just this natural drive inside of me to want to bring people together. That's what I want. And I'm also somebody that works from home too, full time, so I don't get that personal connection, or I can't walk over and talk to somebody. I'm sitting at home, so it's like, okay, I'm really bored. Like, how can I form community? How can I have community for myself? And then it evolves into other people and whatnot. So
how does it work working full time and doing this? Because creating these events is a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. Our backgrounds are in marketing, so the marketing aspect is pretty easy to do. And then it's really more so leading up to the event and then right after the event. So the 2 days leading up to the event, you're getting everything together. You're trying to sell those last minute tickets if they're not sold. You're getting your attendee list together. You're making sure people will have the right tickets when they come in. And then the day after, you're making the matches. I would say the most tedious part of it and the most time-consuming part of it is making the matches and making sure it gets out to people in a timely manner. That was the most difficult part, and I knew that was the most difficult part, and it kept continuing to pop up as the most difficult part. And I was like, okay, this is my pain point. This is what I need to work on. This is what I have to hone in on first. So that's going to save me time. That's going to save me probably 8 to 12 hours because I like to go back and check my work and whatnot. And now we're going to be able to get the matches out within an hour or two. And yeah.
Wow.
And it's system generated, so
nice.
I don't have to do any manual matching or anything like that. So that's how I'm going to be getting time back, but it has taken up a lot of time. Thankfully, working from home, I can work and do something like this as well. But the more we're expanding into different places, the harder it does come and the more challenging it is. I'm not going to lie, I have thought about just doing this full time, and it's totally completely possible to do it. It's just crazy that 6 months ago this didn't even exist.
Yeah.
And now it's like a full-fledged thing, a full-fledged business. It's a little night and day, but it has definitely inspired us both to pursue ourselves more and our passions more versus doing the 9 to 5 type thing.
It just shows you that you can trust yourself, that you can create something different for yourself if you want to.
I think one of the biggest hangups is fear. Fear is what holds us back from following our passions. And we really just have to take it one step at a time and not so much focus on, oh my gosh, I have to do A, B, and C if I want to start this. No, like really you just have to put one foot in front of the other, figure out the basics, and then you're going to learn as you go. And you have to remind yourself that too. I'm going to learn as I go. I'm going to learn what works and what doesn't work. And I'm going to grow. And this is a part of it. I'm not going to have it perfected in the beginning. It would be impossible for me to have it perfected in the beginning. This is new to me. But then you take that, though, with your experience. And if you really, truly have this little thing inside of you, I don't know. It's hard to believe it. If you don't believe it, it doesn't feel like it's possible. But once you start doing it, it can definitely happen. And it empowers you so much. And it empowers you just so much to even show up to go speed date and put yourself out there. There's so much vulnerability in the whole aspect of it that there's so much to be gained.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think as humans, we are trained to keep ourselves comfortable and safe and in control and certain of things. And really, all of our true growth and desires lie outside of that. Whether that's going to a speed dating event or starting your own business or whatever it may be. Because I also am someone who, I started my business from literally nothing. And so often I'm like, okay, it's okay that this isn't going to be perfect and that I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to learn.
Yeah.
Reminding myself that that's okay I have to do that every day.
And there's a lot of questioning of yourself, but
yes,
it's worked so far. And it'll continue to work. As long as the passion is there, then it will continue to grow, and it'll have ups and downs and highs and lows and whatnot. We haven't had any real lows though, but I mean, it's only been like 6 months, but
yeah,
I'm sure there will be. And it's also thinking about how you expand and grow and add to it. But I don't know, speed dating and then being our age, it's just the perfect mashup. And being women too, I think we have the advantage where there's 2 of us doing it versus one person. And you can see there, we were talking about in the very beginning, the support there with each other. That's important. But also if you can do it by yourself, anything, do it by yourself. But yeah, there's just vulnerability all around with the whole entire thing.
Yeah. It is so vulnerable. But I think, again, vulnerability, if we're living our life fully, it's a part of every day.
Yeah.
And we just have to learn how to embrace that more. Allow ourselves to be uncomfortable.
I definitely have to accept that this is how you're going to feel in this moment, but you're doing something that you haven't done before, or you're progressing. Yeah, a lot with like speed dating, being uncomfortable.
Yeah, when I went to that speed dating event, I was like, this is vulnerable, this is uncomfortable, and that's okay. Doing something like a speed dating event, I mean, I guess some people might not blink an eye at that, but I think for most people it's uncomfortable and it's vulnerable in some type of way. And actually, I think that is a skill that is really important to embrace when it comes to dating in general. And to being open and willing and ready to find your person, you have to be willing to be vulnerable and be uncomfortable. So going to a speed dating event can even help you prepare to be in a relationship. Yeah, definitely. It's the first step of many steps, but the vulnerability aspect is definitely there. I guess I don't really I think about it, but I don't think about it in depth. But I think it's probably because I'm not
necessarily experiencing it. I know there's definitely a level of it and definitely a level of nerves, but you're taking the first step. And it's kind of sweet because you're taking the first step together. Anything new you try, it's going to feel uncomfortable. It may feel like it's not going to be the right thing for you, but I mean, what does it matter? It's like 2 or 3 hours, and you get to go home afterwards, and you get to decide what you do during it, before it, after it. You're still fully in control, and hopefully, even if they go to one speed dating event, whether or not they find somebody, it just opens them up more to being able to have conversations with people and not hiding so much behind a phone. Sometimes people don't get matches too, and that can be discouraging, especially because you're just putting yourself out there like this. It's first time, a lot of nerves, a lot of vulnerability, like you were saying, and then you don't get any matches. Our success rate is typically like 80-85%, where you normally get at least one match. And then you guys are free to follow up with that communication, and we step out of the picture. But sometimes people don't get matches. But one thing I don't want people to feel is they didn't get a match. Like, you went out there, you put yourself out there. It's fine. You did something most people have not done, and you're trying and you're putting in the effort. And so long as you're continuously trying and putting in that effort, you're going to have takeaways from it regardless. But also, if somebody doesn't have a match, we still want them to come back. We still want them to be a part of this, and we want them to find what they're looking for, even if that ends up just being friends. Or we've had people, like girls, just become friends, like groups of friends and stuff, and then come to another event together. So you can walk away from it with so many different things: friends, colleagues, whatever it may be. But I mean, the intention is to speed date and look for somebody. But I would say, of course, start off as friends. But I got off track. What I was saying about the no matching thing is, if somebody doesn't get a match, though, we want to encourage them to also come back. So we will go the extra mile with them to get them to come back, whatever it may be. It could be, we want to offer you this promo code. Because, I mean, we want people that are committed to it. And if you're coming to even one, we want to support you. And we also reach out and ask if there's any feedback or if there's something we could have done differently to help them. Sometimes we do have people say, like, they didn't get any matches and they're like, this is hard for me. I've never done this before and it's just discouraging. What do I need to do better? How can I do better? We've had that happen a couple of times. I think it's important to realize it's not you necessarily. You got to keep trying. This isn't like you're going to meet somebody the first time and it's going to be like rainbows and sunshine. We have to be a little bit more realistic about it. It may not take the first time. You may have to come back. You may come back a second time. Or maybe you end up dating somebody from the event and then 3 months later you're like, okay, we hit that 3-month mark. Just not working, then you can still come back if you want.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not A plus B equals C.
Yeah.
And this is with everything in life. But yes, the ultimate goal is to find a relationship for most people, but there's so many little steps to get there. Maybe you went to this first event and you didn't match with anyone, but you learned something about yourself.
Yeah.
You never know why you're doing something. And that's part of the mystery of life and the magic of life.
Yeah.
And it's really just about listening to your intuition, showing up authentically, and taking life as it comes.
I like to think of it as, if this is not happening for me and this is not for me in this moment, something else is. Something better is coming along.
Absolutely.
So I think it's good to have a mindset of, what's not for me isn't going to be here. It's not going to stick, and that is completely fine because there's something better that's going to come along, and it's going to make sense when it happens.
Yes.
As well.
I always tell myself I trust my timing, I trust my path. And then another mantra or saying that I love is, what's meant for me won't miss me, what misses me wasn't meant for me.
Those are both really good.
Because dating can be really discouraging. But also, another thing I tell myself is that I am not looking for just anyone. I'm really looking for the right person. And that's going to be, people have different mindsets around the one or many people, but that's going to be a small group of people, let's say. And so you want to have more no's than yeses.
Yeah.
Like that, you just are going to have that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I like it when people are a little more selective.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people are like, I just want to say yes to everybody and then just see what happens. For me personally, that would be overwhelming. Yeah. And I want to be utilizing my time wisely. Not everybody's for you. You don't want everybody to be for you. It's about putting yourself first, choosing yourself first, choosing what makes sense to you. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily work the first time, and that's totally okay. But there's definitely going to be, like you said, there's going to be a lesson in it. There's going to be some growth that's coming from it, especially because it's not a very common thing that people do either. It's nice to know everybody's kind of in the same boat. It's kind of like everybody having maybe babies all at the exact same time.
You know what you're going through. You're all having your very own unique experience, but there's also commonalities that you can find comfort with.
Yeah. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what you're going to walk away from. Mm-hmm. There are people that are still dating from events. There's a couple that came together at our first event.
Oh, wow.
And they're still dating, so as long as we get invited to one wedding or engagement,
I'll try maybe.
Then I will be happy. I will feel like, okay, we did something. I don't want to do matchmaking per se, or maybe whatever. But like, to know that we were there to help, and you also did that yourself. I don't know. It's really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. What do you feel like is one lesson that you've learned, or one theme that keeps showing up for you?
I didn't know this was going to take off the way that it did, first of all. I thought it was just going to be like a fun little thing. Kind of going back to the fear thing, it's definitely empowered me more. I feel much more in tune with myself. It's nice to be doing something that you feel so passionately about. But I guess one lesson I've learned is, like, if you think you can do it, you might as well just go ahead and try to do it. Don't get so invested in what could go wrong. Even for myself with yoga or training people, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can gather the clientele for it. I don't know if I could do this full time. I don't know. This could go wrong. That could go wrong. I think the fact that I also started this with a friend, that helped because we have each other to rely on. But it's definitely empowered me more. It's definitely helped me look at it more from, okay, you really can pursue yourself first. You really can do these things. You do have ideas that are good. And if you go with them, it can happen. I would definitely say it's helped me get out of my head a lot more and feel more empowered and confident in my decision making, for sure.
That's such a big thing. I feel like that's something that also shows you how aligned this path is for you right now.
And I know it can change. Your passions can change, your life can change, it can all change. Nothing is permanent. But it's nice that this is happening. And it's nice that it's wanted.
Okay, I know that you aren't focused on dating right now, but do you have some core things that you look for when it comes to a relationship?
It feels really weird. It feels like we've had this, like, you just saying that right now feels like something we've talked about before. Vu? Yeah, it's totally deja vu. That's for a second. Funny. Yeah, I was like, So I would say for myself, core values in another person that I look for are self-awareness. I think if you don't have a level of self-awareness, then it's just, you have to have self-awareness. And that's by doing your own work. And you don't necessarily have to be healed, but you have to be working on yourself. And when you're working on yourself, you understand how you show up to other people. And then I would say another one is being active. Really important for somebody to take care of their body. I think self-awareness comes with taking care of your mind, and then also taking care of your body is important for a whole plethora of reasons. Not just the physical appearance aspect, but somebody finding value and taking care of their body and their mind. I think that's really attractive. And then, I don't know, vulnerability is a big one as well, and communication. I think it's really important, even when you date somebody, really knowing how you show up. And thinking about when you have those discomforting moments in a relationship or when you're dating somebody, taking it back and being like, okay, how much of this is me and how much of this is them in this moment? Because in all honesty, you have all the control of how you show up and how you react and respond. Yeah, I definitely self-awareness and vulnerability and somebody who takes care of themselves as well. Yeah. You were saying earlier you have a list of values you've defined of what you want in a partner. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's important to have those. It's good to define that for yourself. And then sometimes you get caught up in the moment of dating somebody and it's very fresh, it's very new, and it can be emotional too, and it's nice to be able to go back to that list and be like, are these still things that I want? Is this what I'm getting right now? And also, and I know we've all done this, like we've lost ourselves in relationships and in dating, defining what it looks like when you lose yourself. So then when it doesn't feel good, going back to that and being like, oh, are these things happening to me right now? And then if they are, you're like, okay, I'm losing myself in this. I need to take a step back, whatever that may look like. But I think it's important to define those things. I don't think you should just go in full force, speed dating, walk into it, oh, who knows, who cares, whatever happens, happens, which can, I guess, be cool, but also at the same time, you should be a little more intentional about it, defining what it is that you do and you don't want, because it's going to come up regardless. And if it doesn't come up, then I think that's your answer too.
Yeah, I think intentionality is everything. And I think knowing yourself first and foremost is everything. Like for me, I always have to have this moment after going on a date or in any sort of relationship where I come back to myself and I spend time in my own energy and I just ground myself. I'm like, okay, how am I feeling about it now? Like, what is feeling true for me now? And using that energy and my intuition in that moment as my North Star, and I can always come back to that, is so important. And that also ensures that you don't lose yourself in the relationship.
Yeah, that's important to check in with yourself. Go speed dating, go home and
process.
See how you feel, what made you feel good, and go from there. But yeah, it's really important to choose yourself.
So living intuitively wild means living dedicated to your true, authentic self no matter what. How do you feel like you live intuitively wild?
I live, I would say, intuitively wild by choosing myself first, putting my happiness and my health first, and then I'm able to help other people. Yeah.
I feel like that echoed throughout the whole conversation.
Yeah.
So, well, amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I think what you're doing is incredible, and how you're showing up for it is so authentic, and it's shown by how it's growing and what's needed.
We love doing it.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's fun. It's really fun. Delete the apps.
Yes. Okay, is there anything you want to share with everyone before we go?
No, I think that's it. Thank you, everybody. Truly appreciate it, and come speed dating.
Maybe I'll go to another event.
Yeah, you should.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Intuitively Wild, the podcast. I hope it helped deepen your connection to yourself, sparked some insights, and inspired you to live intuitively wild. If you enjoyed this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you would share it with others and leave a rating and review. And please reach out to me. I would love to connect with you. I will see you next time for more magic.